Hey, welcome. You know, every business hits those moments of chaos, right? Where the challenges just feel completely overwhelming. But what if all that chaos isn't just an obstacle? What if it's actually a map? Today, we're going to dive into a framework that does just that. It turns those very challenges into a direct path for success. So, does any of this sound familiar to you? Maybe you're dealing with growing pains. You've expanded so fast that your old ways of doing things just aren't cutting it anymore. Or maybe your big projects keep missing their deadlines, or worse, blowing the budget. Or hey, maybe you and your team are just completely burned out, working crazy hours just to stay afloat. These are the classic signs that you're ready for a new wave forward.
Well, here's the good news. That feeling of constant struggle, it's not just you, and it absolutely doesn't have to be permanent. It's chaos. And just calling it what it is, chaos, is the first step, because there's actually a proven way to transform it into order.
Let's just look at the two sides of the coin here. On one side, you've got chaos. That's where you see cost overruns, missed goals, and a totally exhausted team. It's a state of constantly putting out fires. But then, on the other side, there's order. We're talking smooth operations, hitting your targets, and genuinely happy teams. And you know, this isn't just about better numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about a fundamentally better way to work and to live. So this is the most important part. You do not have to be stuck in chaos. There is a clear path from one state to the other. And this journey, it isn't about some kind of magic wand. It's about applying a systematic, proven method that's designed to make you more efficient and, boost your bottom line. So, how do we actually make that journey? Well, it all starts with what we call the efficiency framework. Let's break down this really practical path to getting your organization to peak performance. At its heart, the approach is actually beautiful in its simplicity. First, you have to truly understand an organization's biggest pain points. I'm not talking about the symptoms, but the real root causes. From there, it's about finding the right tools for those specific problems. And finally, you set clear priorities. The goal isn't to fix everything all at once, but to fix what matters most first. Now, this whole framework is built on 5 core strategies. You start by streamlining how you work to get rid of all those bottlenecks. Then, you automate the repetitive tasks to free up your people to be brilliant. Once you've got that solid foundation, you can manage projects way more effectively. But of course, systems are nothing without people, which is why the next step is empowering your teams, investing in them, trusting them. And finally, building a culture that actually values work-life balance. See how each step builds on the last? All right, so that all sounds great on paper, right? But what does it actually look like when you put it into practice? Let's take a look at how these strategies turn real-world obstacles into some pretty amazing victories. Let's start with a really high-stakes example. We're talking about a Fortune 100 healthcare company, literally one of the biggest in the world. And they had a major problem. A key part of their finances was performing, well, dismally. And for a company that size, that's a massive issue with massive consequences. So they applied this framework, focused on improving their processes, and what happened? Well, within just 1 year, productivity in that exact area shot up by a staggering 60%. That's not just a little tweak. That is a complete, game-changing transformation. Okay, now for a completely different kind of challenge. A state agency was just stuck. They kept pushing their strategic goals from 1 year to the next, never really hitting their mark. And this wasn't just an internal issue. They started getting some very uncomfortable questions from the legislature and the governor's office. You know, the solution wasn't a bigger budget. It was a total shift in focus. By creating real accountability and making their progress transparent and measurable, they changed the entire conversation. Suddenly, they could prove they were being responsible with their budget, turning all that scrutiny into confidence. And you've got to remember, the impact isn't just on reports and numbers. I mean, listen to this quote from a film producer who used these principles. She said it gave her peace and sanity. It's about getting rid of that constant worry because you can actually trust the system. That human element, that's everything. So what do other leaders who've gone through this process have to say about it? Let's take a look at the view from the top, where these results are impossible to ignore. Here's a quote from Elliot Hibbs, and this really reinforces that state agency success story. In his quote, he's talking about Positive Outlook Industries, or POI, the group that put this framework into action for them. For him, the key was the total transformation into a results-driven agency that saw outstanding improvements. And I love this one from Mary Hall because it highlights the character behind the competence. It's one thing to be good at the work. It's another to be dependable, personable, and genuinely open to feedback. That's how you build the trust you need to make real, lasting change. And just think about how wide the ripple effect is here. This kind of change doesn't just stay in one little department. The positive effects spread through the entire organization, from the folks on the front lines all the way up to the executive team. It's a true top-to-bottom improvement. Okay, so we've seen the problem, we've walked through the framework, and we've seen the proof. Now, let's bring it all back home, back to you and what this path to success could look like in your world. So what does success actually look and feel like? Well, instead of broken systems, you have a clear vision and operations that are smooth as silk. Instead of constantly missed deadlines, projects actually get done on time. And instead of burnout, you have happy customers and happy employees. And really, what's it all for? It's about getting your time and your energy back to focus on what you truly love. I want to leave you with this really powerful way of looking at things. What if all those frustrations, the burnout, the missed targets, aren't just problems you have to solve? What if, as consultant Catherine Gabriel puts it, they are actually opportunities in disguise, basically pointing you directly toward a better way of doing business? And that brings us to the final question for you today. Looking at your own business, at your own challenges, and thinking about that shift in perspective. What opportunity that's currently disguised as a problem are you going to decide to seize first?